Welcome to Red Zone Sports. We got week 2, as I like to call it, overreaction week after week 1, when there's a lot of curveballs getting thrown at you. I wasn't expecting this. I wasn't expecting that. Oh my God, this guy sucks. This guy's great. Don't overreact. That's my quote line for the week. And I'm ready for week 2. I'm trying to just reground myself after a very disappointing showing of my Raiders last week. I had my expectations way too high. I just lost the stupidest overbet of all time on Thursday Night Football. I'm slightly a mental train wreck right now. I'm trying to hold it together. I'm hoping you guys can help me figure this out.
We got you. What'd you say when the Raiders lost? We didn't even say anything. We felt bad, and you just said "Be still my heart" or something like that. It was just
it was just you can't break what's already broken. Is what I said, and it's
incredible.
And look, my heart got broken again. I just don't know how many more pieces this thing can get broken into, and I'm looking to just rally back in DFS and have some sort of glimmer of hope and bring some money home. That would be nice.
I mean, I don't really know what else you were expecting from the Raiders, so.
It's funny. I go into every season we suck. I'm a very realistic Raider fan, and I'm we got a good defense. I like our coach. I got high hopes. I came into this year for the first time in 6 or 7 years. You know what?
Our pets' heads are falling off.
And then our pets' heads fell off, and the gas man came, and
that's all she wrote. That was it.
But hey, I'm excited for another week of football. It's amazing how that excitement was so high going into the season, and now I'm just deflated, and I'm ready to just pump the helium back in.
I love it. I love that attitude, positivity entering this slate. Let's do it.
I'm trying. Let's do this thing. Starting with quarterbacks. Mr. Quarterback, Vinny.
Oh, going to me right out of the gates.
Top tier.
All right. Top tier. I just plan to ride this ship, and it might ride me right into the ground, but I'm going right back to Burrow here. I think after last week, obviously insanely disappointing, killed about half the survivor pools out there. But I think this is just the ultimate game script. I know, Jim, this matchup a couple years ago is what put you into a major winner circle in best ball. These two teams, when they play, it just turns into fireworks. Now, I know Cincinnati doesn't really have all of its weapons with T. Higgins out, but that's okay. I'm going to ride this thing, kind of guinea stack it, and bring it back with Mr. Joe Burrow, 6,300. He's coming in super low ownership. I like this play.
Yeah, I like it. It's going against the overreactions. I love it. I think the Bengals were overlooking their opponent in week 1 and getting ready for this game. There's a lot of negative talk about Joe Burrow's wrist. He's I don't know what you're talking about. It's fine. I believe in Joe Burrow. I like it. Stick with your guns.
Yep.
All right. I'm gonna roll next. And going right back to my tagline this week, I'm going with Kyler Murray. I really liked what Arizona did last week against the Bills. Obviously, they fell apart on defense in the second half, but hey, that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about that Arizona offense.
They also fell apart on offense, so
But again, they put up 28 points.
Quarter.
The Bills are a lot better than a lot of people were expecting. I know, Jim, you have high hopes on the Bills, and but most of the media and everyone is definitely down on the Bills. Well, not anymore, right? They just absolutely crushed the Dolphins. The Dolphins offense couldn't even move the ball, even with Tua in there. I know Tua is not great, but they just absolutely stifled them. The Bills defense is good, and Arizona came out and put up 28 on them. The Rams, the Lions did not play their best game against the Rams last week and still put up 26. I think Arizona comes out this week and puts up 30 plus points. I like Kyler. I'm going right back to the same stacks that I ran with last week.
Yeah, makes sense.
All right,
James.
I'm gonna stick with the theme of not overcomplicating it and just play Lamar. We saw last week that he's just gonna pull the ball down and run after his first read. Sometimes even just his second read. There's the third read is just pull the ball down and run. So there's no anything else with Lamar. That's just what's gonna happen. The Raiders, respectfully, Joe, you think that they have a good defense. They have a couple of good players, but as a whole, they're not a very good defense. If you go back and watch that game, they missed so many tackles on guys much worse than Lamar. I mean, the repaired Achilles of J.K. Dobbins arm tackles on the Raiders all weekend last weekend. So, I'm just going to play Lamar, and just going to stack him with Derrick Henry, and that'll be good for me.
Okay. Agree to disagree.
Agree to disagree. That's why we do this show. All right.
All right.
Moving this
Moving
around.
down.
Who in the mid tier, Jim, are you looking at?
Well, I mean, Vinny, you already picked somebody in the mid tier, I guess. So
Yeah.
I was like, where is the mid tier?
yeah. I'll go right back to Jaden Daniels. I mean, he's not, if you watch the film, he's got a lot of work to do, but you don't have to be good in real life to be a good fantasy quarterback, right? He's another guy. He's going to get maybe to his second read and then just run. You don't have to stack him with anybody if you don't want to. I am possibly going to go back and just keep the method going and stack him with Terry McLaurin. He does have a top 4 wide receiver cornerback matchup this week. Terry McLaurin does. PFF has him ranked number 4 out of the whole NFL slate. He's got the 4th best matchup this week. So, I'll be definitely playing Jade Daniels by himself. I'll be playing him with Terry McLaurin, and I'm just going to kind of stick with the theme. Lamar's a running quarterback. Daniels is a running quarterback. They just that extra like 40 to 50, maybe even 60 yards that these guys pick up is so incredibly valuable, because 40 yards is worth another touchdown, right?
Yeah.
So it's the same amount. So I'm going back to Jaden Daniels. The Giants, we saw they don't have a very good defense. So easy one for me right there at 6,200.
Cool.
All right. I like that. Yeah. And I'm
Joe?
going, not that I like Burrow more because they're right next to each other, but it's Jared Goff. And I know he had a couple bad plays last week, but again, they put up 26 points in a game. I honestly would grade the Lions at like a C-. They did not play their best game, not even close. Tampa Bay, there is talking about a defense that nothing scares me about the defense. There is nothing about that Buccaneers defense that scares me. They played against a horrendous Washington offense. And again, I think Detroit comes out and just absolutely pummels the Bucs, and Jared Goff gets 3+ touchdowns, lock him in at that 6,400 price.
All right.
Yeah. I like that.
Going down a little bit more. I think you guys already know who I'm going to play like down there, but so I'll go last.
Well, Vinny's going to do his mid-tier. Yeah.
What? You picked Burrow. Is Burrow not in the mid-tier?
Well, he was my highest guy.
But it was his highest guy.
I mean, there's 2 guys right here that I like right next to each other, but I'll stick with one. I'll stick with the show format. I'm going to take the other side of that game, Joe, that you had with Kyler, and go with Stafford. If there's one thing we've seen, obviously they're going to let it fly and throw. I like this game quite a bit to shoot out, to be totally honest. It's probably my favorite game on the slate. We know very clearly that he's got a stacking option there with Cooper Kupp and a few of the cheaper guys that are starting to emerge a little bit. And I just think at 6K, he's got a pretty safe floor here. So I don't see them, just pivoting to the run game and trying to run this thing out. I think if Arizona can get things rocking and rolling, we've seen McVay will just let Stafford cook. So I like Stafford at 6K just to air this thing out. And I think we can see a 300-yard bonus, couple touchdowns is very much in play for that. So that's why I like it kind of in that quote unquote mid-tier.
All right. So going down below Joe, who do you like? Do you like any cheapies this week?
Why don't you guys just let the cat out of the bag, both of you? Just hold each other's hands and say
it's both of us. It's Danny Dimes.
You sick people.
5,300 against that. Honestly, guys, look, Baker had a great game last week. I'm not going to take anything away from that, but Baker is not a 4-touchdown quarterback. That's just not who he is. This Commanders defense is going to be so bad all year long. And just any quarterback at 5,300 that has potential running upside. I know he's not one of your like standard running quarterbacks, but like there's a good chance Daniel Jones runs one in inside the 5-yard line, gets 2 passing touchdowns. Yeah, I'm not saying he's a good quarterback, but for fantasy at 5,300 against potentially the worst defense in the NFL, that's my only low end guy. Everyone else down here in the 5,000 range, I just have zero interest in.
I'm on board with Joe. We're playing Danny Dimes again. Don't really care. Yep. I'm stacking him with Neighbors and just kind of moving on. Yep, and look, exactly. Neighbors popped up on the injury report today. So for whatever reason, if Neighbors doesn't play, Wan'Dale Robinson had more targets than Neighbors did last week. So I don't expect that to happen again. But yeah, I'll play Danny Dimes again because this week especially, nobody is going to. And I mean nobody.
Yeah, they're so down on the Giants. It's not even close. It's really bad. And again, Commanders are just really bad too. So
they're not good.
Yeah, for sure. I think the only other guys, since you guys gave 3 that I was going to mention, I'm with you guys. I don't really love too much in the 5K range outside of that. But I do think Brock Purdy is very much in play this week. Even if McCaffrey comes back, he looks sharp, is making the right decisions. I mean, Ayuk dropped a touchdown. He very easily could have gone ballistic in that game, but they just had it under control against the Jets. So they look super crisp. I think they're going to be in a dome, right? Minnesota is susceptible. I think Brock Purdy's definitely in play here at his price tag. So for 6,100, I'm kind of living in that low 6s this week.
I like that. All right.
On to running back.
All right, let's do it. I will lead this one off. We'll just go in that order, and then Jimmy second, Vinny third here, and then we'll round robin back. It's Jonathan Taylor. Anthony Richardson looked great last week, and then for fantasy, and then he also missed like 3 touchdowns wide open, right? And I think if this Colts team is smart, but they got to limit Anthony Richardson a little bit more, and they really got to pound the rock with Jonathan Taylor. Green Bay's run defense looked atrocious against the Eagles last week. Saquon just absolutely went ballistic, and I can see Jonathan Taylor having a ballistic type 3 touchdown game. If I'm going up high, he's my favorite.
Real quick, I like that just because of the leverage you're going to get off of Richardson.
Yes.
Because he's going to be
exactly.
popular.
Well, exactly. I mean, but I don't know. I mean, Joey, I don't know how much more they can limit him. He only had 19 pass attempts. That's like historic lows for the NFL over the last
but it's crazy.
years.
Like I think
19.
something the Colts, right? There was a crazy stat in this game that honestly I don't remember the last time I saw this, but Houston outpossessed the ball 40 minutes to 20 in that game.
I know because they ran the shit out of the ball.
To 20, right? But if the Colts are smart,
Joe Mixon.
Yep. But look, if the Colts are smart, they look at that and go, okay, that's not a winning formula. And we need to keep the ball a little bit longer. And they're going to give the ball to Jonathan Taylor a hell of a lot more than they did last week.
Yeah. Because I do think, just real quick, like I know with Malik Willis starting this game, like I think that's the only way the Colts lose this game is by turnovers, right? And like giving the ball up. So I could see definitely more of a conservative kind of run approach in this one. So. Yeah,
it's one of those hopes that if Jonathan Taylor gets 25 plus carries, he's definitely going to give us that run for a multi-touchdown game and a 100+ yard game. Pretty easy.
Cool. Jim?
I think I'm going Breece Hall. It goes between Hall and Pacheco for my top guy, but I'm just going to lean to Breece Hall. You saw the usage in the game. 16 carries, 5 of 6 targets. I mean, 20 plus touches, and did not have a great game. 16 carries for 54 yards, 5 catches for 39 yards and a touchdown, but still at 20 points. Okay, so it's at $7,400. That's his floor game. Okay, that's what we're looking at this year for Breece Hall, right? He has the receiving upside. He has something that Jonathan Taylor just absolutely does not, which is that receiving upside. And he's got Aaron Rodgers, who loves to drop the ball down to him. We saw Aaron kind of blow his whole load, really, on that first drive. And then after that, he looked like, Captain fucking Noodle Arm again. And, I mean, I just don't see how you can go wrong with Breece Hall at 7,400. I think that Breece Hall should honestly be priced high, above Jonathan Taylor. I think that he should probably be priced in the low 8s at least, the amount of percentage that he's seeing the ball on that team. I really just don't understand why he's priced the way he is. So I'm going to take advantage of that, because as we kind of progress throughout the season, we start to realize that like that 16 to 18 point, 19 points is really his floor week to week. I have to take advantage of it now while we have the pricing lower, because he's not going to be in the 7s, I don't think, for the rest of the year. Tennessee, not a great. They played okay on defense, right? But they played not a very good running back last week in Swift, and not a very good offense. It looks like this is a little bit better of an offense. They can move the ball. So Breece is my guy. Vinny, who you got?
You've talked me into it.
I like Breece too. He's going to get ownership for sure, but like you said, it's not a bad play. He's getting ownership because he's too cheap in this matchup. So I like Breece as well. But the second guy I had ranked, and you just kind of mentioned his name, is Pacheco. In that matchup, he's going to be the lowest owned, of the major like weapons, quote unquote, in that game. So you get pretty good leverage there. You get a piece of that game. And we just see him, dude. He's so involved in the offense. Like, he's going to be used in the passing game. The guy runs so hard. Like, he is Marshawn Lynch 2.0.
Yep.
And I think it's a great matchup. If the Chiefs get ahead, they're going to lean on him big time. So Pacheco at 6,900 is one of my favorite plays for sure on the slate.
All right.
Okay.
Joey, going down to the mids here, who do you like the best?
Who tickles
you? It's James Conner, right? 19 points, like you were saying, Jim, and it's like he really didn't even do that much, right? He had 19 carries for 50 yards and a touchdown. He had 3 catches for 30 yards, 19 points, right? He scoots another one across the end zone or whatever. He's getting up in that 25-point range. The reality is he's gonna get play, and they want to run the ball over there in Arizona, or they want to spread it out. They're not going to do the one-man show to Marv, as we saw that he got 2 targets the entire game. Kyler even said, it's not my job to get Marvin Harrison the ball. And I know what he meant by that. I know that was a headline, but it means no, I'm giving the ball to who's open, right? Whoever makes sense in the progression. And if I have to check down to James Conner, that's fine. They get in the goal line, they're going to run the ball. James Conner is their dude. And if the running game is working well, they are not afraid to give him the ball 25 plus times in a game.
And don't forget to, like you said, the Rams just traded their starting middle linebacker right before the season, and the Lions just pounded them, especially towards the end of that game. So I got to imagine Arizona's going to try to do the same.
Yeah, and it's kind of a fun stack that you could do that's not going to be a totally high-owned stack, and it's Kyler with James Conner with a McBride.
Mm-hmm.
And you can get a little weird with it. And I'm going to be rostering a lot of James Conner this week.
Yep.
There you go.
I like that.
Vinny, who you got down here?
I mean, Conner was my guy, to be honest. So 6,400.
Oh.
I think if you see that, I know he's got the Q tag, but if you see Kenneth Walker playing, I will probably go back to him. The guy is just so good. I don't know if you guys watched some of that Seattle game. When he's got the ball in his hands, he moves at a different speed than Zach Charbonnet for sure. So if he doesn't play, obviously, that takes care of that. Connor's my favorite, but I do like Ken Walker there at 6,300. He's going to come in at super low ownership. So I like that play if he's in.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, there's 3 guys down here. I guess I'll.
We know. I guess Ford and Stevenson.
Save an honorable mention.
Oh, you got 2. You got
Ford,
2 of them, Vinny. Ford, Stevenson.
Are you going to go down to Mason?
I'm not going to talk about Mason. The 3 guys I'm looking right in there is
We're in the mid-tier. We're in the mid-tier, right?
Yeah, Ford, Stevenson, and Brian Robinson Jr. And honestly, if you look at the opportunities that they all got, I don't know how I can't. I mean, that's the Patriots' success to being competitive is just running the shit out of the ball, right?
Yeah.
The guy got fucking 25 carries. So 25 carries and 6 targets. He had 31 looks and converted it into 28 touches. So, again, that's just a mispriced player right there at 6,200. They're pricing him that way. They're at home. It's going to be their home opener. But like they're going to do the same thing. They're not going to change their game plan, right? They don't care how they win games. They don't care what it looks like. They have a former linebacker as a head coach. Like they just don't care, right? They don't have a very good quarterback, and they've got a rookie in the wings. They can run the ball though, and their offensive line can't pass protect very well, but they're built to run the ball pretty well, right? It wasn't amazing numbers for Stevenson on a yards per carry basis, but I mean, 25
points volume.
I mean, I'll take that again. And he just does not come off the field. There's nobody else there anymore. People are worried about Antonio Gibson. I have no idea why. He's the DeMar Hamlin of running backs. He might as well just be a ghost out there. Like he's not. And now DeMar's seeing the field more than Antonio is. So maybe he's the new DeMar. But no, it's when you talk about those three guys, I like them all, but it's just got to be Stevenson for the sheer amount of volume that he is going to get. And he is their offense right now. He might be hurt in 3 games because he's getting so much work, but like while he's in there, I'm just going to go for it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Before we dive down low, I don't think we really need to touch on Jordan Mason. If McCaffrey sits, I mean, what are you going to have? 80%, 90% of Jordan Mason?
I mean, you should have 100.
Okay.
Because
we're on the same page.
Well, it's either you have to play 100% of them or you play none.
Yeah.
Because playing 20 to 30% Jordan Mason isn't going to do anything to you.
Right.
You need to take a hard line stand one way or the other, right? And I mean, at 5,200, I mean, Kyle Shanahan is not a guy who likes to give rookies opportunities until they've proven it. Okay. He's not going to give Isaac Guerrero carries. He's not going to give Patrick Taylor carries. He would rather hand the ball off the use check. And then we saw it line fucking Debo up in the backfield, which I absolutely cannot fucking stand, is watching Debo Samuel run dives because he's not good at it, right? He doesn't have that type of vision. But I mean, that's what Kyle Shanahan is going to do. He's not going to give these other guys carries. He's just going to give a shitload to Mason and then mix in Debo every once in a while to give Mason a blow. So, like, if he plays, I'm playing 100% of him. If, and if McCaffrey plays, then I still might. That's where – no, I mean, I will mix in probably 20%, 15% of Jordan Mason if McCaffrey plays, because for sure McCaffrey's not going to get his full workload. For sure.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else down here in the low 5s or below?
Yeah. I like Jamil Hill. He got 1 carry last week, but he's on the field like 80% of the time.
Who's Jamil Hill?
Is it not Jamil? What's his first name? Justice. My bad. There's a Jamil Hill somewhere in the world. My bad. Justice Hill, right? But he's on the field. Sorry. He's on the field, right? And he gets catches. And it's this Todd Monken offense. I know Derrick Henry's there, but this whole we're going to ground and pound it. It's not really their philosophy. They want to spread it out and let Lamar just do his thing and run the ball, obviously, and dump it off to Hill. I just think there's a lot of opportunities for him at this price range. He got us 12 points last week, and he got the ball 7 times. And all it takes is that one play where he breaks it or he scores a touchdown. And again, I think he's going to be on the field a lot, and no one's going to own him because everyone's on Derrick Henry. And I'm in full belief that the Ravens have no intention of actually playing Derrick Henry until the second half of the season. He's going to be in there, but he's not going to get 20, 25 carries. They're not going to rely on him. They're not going to let him beat up his body, and they're going to save him for the playoff run. Yeah, so Hill is going to be on the field a lot.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I think we have to get out of our brains that this is like Tennessee Titans Derrick Henry and Vrabel that will just run him 35 times a game. That's not what they're going to do. I still think he's not a horrible play, but he's not going to get 30 touches, So.
Yeah, I think later in the season, absolutely. I just think right now they're like, no, preserve this guy.
That makes sense.
Wheels to stay strong, because they know they're going to be a playoff run type team, and they need that guy towards the end of the year.
Yeah. No, I like it. I mean, one guy that I'm going to hit on again, I mentioned him last week as the honorable mention. I wish I would have played more of him and trusted my gut, but J.K. Dobbins down here at 5,400. From what I can tell,
Yeah, I don't know why.
Not getting
I
steamed
don't,
up.
I don't know why. That again, it's just a misprice.
Yeah.
Like I just don't get it. Like I know that Gus Edwards got carries and stuff like that, but if you go back and look at the press conferences all throughout the offseason, they said that he's the guy who's looked the best. I know he only did it on 10 carries, but he only needed to do it on 10 carries because the Chargers just dominated the whole game. He didn't need more than 10 carries. So he also had 3 catches, right? So yeah, I mean, I'm with you, Vinny. I think J.K. Dobbins, he was my guy too. I don't know why you would go anywhere else down here. I'm not playing Jalen Warren, who's in a timeshare, Chuba Hubbard, who everybody, myself included, thought was going to do a little bit more, but 6 carries for Chuba Hubbard, and I know the Carolina offense didn't look good as a whole, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he's priced down here with guys like, Madison and Chandler. And I just, give me J.K. Dobbins. I'm in for that, Vinny.
Cool.
Okay.
All right. On
Moving
to
on.
the main position. What do we got here? Receivers, boys.
All
Up
right,
top.
Jim, you're leading off.
All right.
I'm finishing us off.
Okay.
So I am going to be going with CeeDee Lamb. He didn't have a great week last week. He's the most expensive player. I mean, he had 13 points. Dallas didn't really need to do much. The Browns are fucking terrible. Dak had kind of a little bit of an off week last week. I think he only completed about 58% of his passes. Like, it wasn't the greatest week in the world. But for a guy, again, in a bad game, still with the volume, right? 10 targets, it's just like, it's pretty wild the amount of volume that gets thrown this guy's way. I'm just gonna go for it because from what I'm seeing, he's not gaining a lot of ownership just because he had kind of a meh game last week. Didn't really practice a whole lot, kind of held out as well, like Ayuk did. So him and Dak didn't get a whole lot of time this offseason. But if I'm paying up, I'm just gonna go all the way up to CD.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I'll go here. I mean, he's going to be the highest owned player on the slate, most likely, but I don't see how I don't start at least 50% of my lineups with Cooper Kupp this week. The guy is just going to get fed target after target. The way McVay uses him in that offense, he's pretty unguardable. Like, Jim, we went to that Monday night game, I think 2 years ago. Like, what do you have, like 15 catches? Like, even when defenses scheme to stop him, he can still just get open. The memorable game on Monday night. But the guy's he's just unguardable. And I'm not saying he's going to break off 70-yard touchdowns, maybe like Lamb will. But a guy who's going to get 15, 18 targets in this game. Like,
but to your point, Vinny, he doesn't need to.
No, not in a
he
PPR
can have
format.
he can have 12 catches for 80 yards, and that's just absolutely smashing, right? And then he falls into the end zone, and he's at almost 30 points at that point. So, and they're going to score against Arizona.
For sure.
Again, you just look at the people behind him, and it's just like,
there's some places you can go, but
Tyler Johnson,
Stafford's going
to
absolutely feed him. So 7,600, he's as close to a lock button play, I think, for me at the receiver position as I'm going to be this week. So,
all right, I like that.
Joe,
who are you going with?
I like Jamar Chase. And look, they looked like shit last week. Jamar still got 6 catches for 62. But the real reason I'm playing Jamar Chase is because this Cincinnati versus Kansas City game is going to be very close to playoff game-esque type of feeling. And the Bengals always will play up, especially Burrow, Mahomes. And this is where dominant players step up to a different level. And this is where I could see Jamar Chase just taking the game on his shoulders and making those 2 or 3 just massive plays that change the game. Obviously, give us massive production in DFS. I think Burrow just knows to feed Chase. And like I said, I think this game is going to be a lot closer than people think, with a lot more points than people are thinking. And we just need to write off that game with Cincinnati versus the Patriots last week as an outlier, and we just need to not think about it because that's not the Bengals that you're going to see the rest of the season.
Yeah.
My only thing to that is I like all the opportunities. The Bengals are predicted to run the second most offensive plays this week. So Jamar Chase is going to get a projected 39 snaps. The only one who's projected higher to get more snaps is going to be Devonta Smith based on how he plays. But his matchup is not very good. Like the Chiefs corners are pretty damn good. So that's the one thing that concerns me a little bit. I hope that they take more of the Cooper Kupp route with him this week and just kind of pepper him with targets to get him there, because I do like the game overall, but I'm just concerned that especially if T. Higgins sits again, that Kansas City is just basically going to say, hey, like, if you want to beat us with, this Eastern Bloc, receiver Islovis or whatever the hell this guy's name is, and the rookie Jermaine Burton and Mike Gesicki, like, go ahead, like we'll let you do that. That's my concern there. So
I think I agree with you. I do think, to Joe's point though, like the Bengals have to realize, like, without T. Higgins, they can't just roll out a game plan last week where they're like, oh, we're just gonna run our normal offense and Chase will be like a part of it and like beat Kansas City. Like, they're gonna have to run the offense through Jamar Chase if they have a shot here, in my opinion.
And also to your point, Jim, the whole peppering, like I think that's exactly what's going to happen, and then you're going to get that like one big deep play, right, that we're looking for. And the Chiefs definitely run. They have a very talented defense, very talented secondary, but they definitely run the prototypical bend don't break defense, and then like send the house to make that big play on third down or something. But they'll let you take all those chances underneath. They'll let you eat up yards and get a field goal at the end of the drive. That's what they're hoping for, because they know Mahomes is going to win at 27 points.
Fair enough.
I think Chase gets 10 plus catches this week, easy.
Yeah, fair enough.
Cool.
The one thing before we go below 7,000, I just wanted to give a little honorable mention up here is Garrett Wilson. I mean, the guy had fucking 11 targets. I mean, in a game where the Jets just didn't run very many plays. So, I mean, I took a look at the stats earlier. I think it was something like 36% target share. Like, it's pretty nuts. Yeah. So at 7,100, again, I try and look where there's a mispricing, right? Like, he's $1,000 less than Amon-Ra St. Brown, and I like the matchup for St. Brown, right? But if I can save $1,000 and get the same level of production or just opportunity, right? Because that's what we're looking for. We don't know what the production is going to be, but we have to guess on opportunity. That's just something I'm interested in, but just wanted to mention that before we move down below the $7,000 mark here.
Cool.
I think this week is going to be a pretty big Chris Olave week for the Saints. It's a guy that's not going to be a popular play whatsoever. I bet you a lot of people are going to go back and play Shaheed. Olave had two catches for 11 yards. Okay. But the fact of the matter is, it's kind of like the Bills game tonight, where you kind of look at, if you just are looking at the stats and the box score, and you didn't watch the game.
That game was over like 5 minutes in.
100%. They were dealing with all kinds of short fields, right? They put their backups in like midway through the third quarter. They were getting their young guys run. I mean, from what I'm seeing 4% ownership on Olave. Like, they are going to have to utilize him this week. And to your point, Joey, Dallas plays much of the same type of that bend but don't break defense, and then they'll send blitzes, right? You've also got Diggs on Dallas's defense who likes to guess, okay? So if he guesses wrong, Olave is an elite route runner, okay? He's not the fastest guy in the world, but he can turn Diggs around, and if Diggs guesses inside on an option route and he breaks it off to the post, I mean, Derek Carr is not very good, but he's good enough to hit open wide receivers, right? So at 6,400, I think it's a misprice just based on what his game was last night. Shaheed, the only way he got there last week is on that one deep bomb, right? And they're not going to be able to rely on that forever. I like Olave quite a bit. I like him as a nice run back with my Dallas stacks. And yeah, that's going to be my main man in the mid tier there.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, he's the reason, not solely, but he's a big reason why, like I was joking with you guys yesterday about playing Derek Carr. Like, the Dallas defense, like you said, takes chances, and I want the guy who can make them pay the most, and that's Olave at like sub 5% ownership. So, being that you took him, I'm going to go a little bit below that. A guy at 6K, he had 8 targets last week, and he looked really good. If you remember, he had an injury 2 years ago, and last year he wasn't quite right. Chris Godwin.
Yes.
Baker is going to be under heat on Sunday from this Detroit pass rush. That means him sitting back there and letting Mike Evans truck on down the field 60 yards is not quite going to be there, which means Godwin should be getting absolutely, 12, 13 targets I'm kind of anticipating here. So out of the slot.
Yeah, that's the key, Vinny, is they moved him back into the slot where he plays the best out of. He does not play very well outside. He doesn't do very well getting pressed and jammed at the line. Like, he doesn't have that sort of explosive speed, but he knows how to move in space, right? Like, I look at Khalil Shakir as like kind of like a younger version of Chris Godwin, right? Who doesn't, again, last year, once they moved Shakir into the slot after Joe Brady took over, he just started to blossom at the end of the year, and you saw it tonight, right? With Shakir out of the slot, works the zone well, had the most receiving yards on the team tonight. So, like, yeah, I love that play, Vinny. I think that he goes overlooked a lot, and people will just automatically go to Evans. And I would like to take the, what is it? Pretty good price saving here, $1,500 less, and play Godwin.
Lower ownership.
That's a good call, Vinny. Oh yeah, all night.
Joe, mid tier.
Yeah, I'm going to. Yeah, I guess this is mid tier, but Rashee Rice at 6,700. Same reasoning in that game. Again, he is their number one receiver. Yeah, Worthy's going to get his, but I wouldn't even call them gadget plays, but like they're plays specifically designed for him. Rashee Rice is like the only receiver that's on the Chiefs, and he went over 100 yards. He didn't get in the end zone. But like you're going to see multiple 100-yard games from Rashee Rice this year. This game is going to be high scoring, very competitive, and in tight moments, Mahomes is going to look for the guy that he trusts. And I feel like the Kelsey effect is fading slightly, and the Rashee Rice effect is increasing. The stock is going up. He knows this is probably his last season playing for at least a year next year, and like he's just gonna turn up game by game. And him and Mahomes have a great rapport. So,
do they run that dig like slant route like 8 times a game, and it's just an automatic 10-yard catch? It's insane.
Yeah,
and just like he just needs to sneak one into the end zone, and we're cooking.
All right, so we'll start flying here a little below 5,500. I'm going to lean to a guy that looked freaking phenomenal, and I don't know why he's not getting ownership here after being on that primetime game. But Jameson Williams finally looks like the guy we saw at Alabama that they rolled the dice on with the first-round pick. Dude, he looked so fast and explosive. I think the rumors are kind of true in Detroit that they're like the team's kind of pissed off and turned off by St. Brown, and I think you saw like the Jameson Williams kind of thing start to emerge on Sunday night. At 5,300, dude, this is a guy that just has ultimate game breaking ability. They're going to get him involved in like end rounds. They're going to get him involved in the deep plays. So at 5,300 on that fast turf, I like that.
Yeah,
Tampa's missed, I think 2 corners, if not for sure 1.
Yeah, I just don't get the pricing.
I don't
like
the ownership. From what I'm seeing right now, like, what do you? I've seen 6%.
It's because he's got the questionable tag because he had that little ankle thing and he hasn't been. They've just been letting him kind of take it easy this week, which obviously like that's probably a good idea, right? But yeah, that was my guy down here too, Vinny. I guess my little quick honorable mention would be Lad McConkey. Got into the end zone.
Gonna take
a good lad.
Not a tremendous amount of yards, but 7 targets, got into the end zone. didn't like do anything crazy, but at 4,900, if you're getting 15 points, it's just an easy safety blanket type of throw for Herbert. And especially in a week where, the Raiders linebackers, I will say, are probably the best unit on their team. They cover that intermediate stuff pretty well. So most of the stuff for Ladd, besides the touchdown, was just basically a catch and he was tackled, right? Who knows what's going to happen with Carolina? So Ladd's going to be my guy down here.
Cool.
And Joe, you got any real like shit stabbers down here at the bottom?
Oh, I got a few.
Like the big one is Adonai Mitchell. I know he screwed a lot of us last week, and I wouldn't say it was him that screwed us. It was Anthony Richardson that screwed us.
Dude, he was open.
But he was getting open. Like, he is a stud, and he was just getting missed, right? And it's like the opportunities are gonna be there for him. And again, I wouldn't say the Packers defense did very well against the Eagles last week. They just got absolutely torched. So I can see Mitchell again at 4K with the potential of being kind of that number one receiver downfield if Richardson can just fucking be accurate. I'm going to take more shots on him. I'll definitely have less of a percentage than I did last week, but I'll definitely be taking my shots on him.
All right, Jim, who do you like as some spend downs?
My favorite guy, and it looks like he is going to be active this week, is going to be Noah Brown. Was listening to Dan Quinn's press conference on Wednesday, and he basically just kind of said he just didn't quite have enough of a handle on the offense yet. He just hadn't been here with us for long enough, but he's certainly trending in the right direction to be active for the game against the Giants. So that's something that is good to me. Luke McCaffrey looked okay. Zacchaeus looked terrible.
He's
absolutely terrible. De'Ami Brown, he flashed in the preseason, but again, he was playing against guys who are hanging fucking sheetrock now. Okay, De'Ami Brown, we know who De'Ami Brown was, right? He's never put up consistent performances like Noah Brown put up last year. And at $3,200, if he becomes their bona fide number 2 wide receiver, he's not going to be 30. He's going to be up in the mid 4s, high 4s pretty soon here, right? My only concern, obviously, is with Jaden Daniels and the passing volume. Yeah. So on some of those lineups that I'm considering playing Daniels in naked, I might throw him in there as not really. I mean, it's a stack, but it's only 3,200. So all I really need is one of those bombs, right? Or 2 catches for 60 yards. And honestly, I would be happy with that at 3,200. So yeah, he's kind of my play, way down there. I like going back to Mitchell, Joe. I don't hate that. But I think that's my guy. Vinny, you said, hey, you had a few, so
I do have a few. This is, I know he's a little bit above those guys, but it is light the Dortch week, my friends. This guy is a major part of the offense. You can laugh or joke around about it, but dude, he's one of Kyler's favorite targets at 4,600. If you're playing that game, he's an easy stack up option. So
I almost feel like that. I don't know. I almost feel like somebody like Ladd McConkey might have been a better fit on the Cardinals than Marvin Harrison is.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know. It's a weird thing, but you're right, Vinny. He likes him. He's going to keep throwing him the ball.
He's in play. I think you're going to see Demarcus Robinson is definitely in play. He's the only other guy in that Rams offense who's somewhat decent.
The only argument I like Tyler Johnson. He got 7 targets last week, right? No Puka. I mean, that again, it's going to be either or.
Yeah,
but I like both of them just with the increased opportunities. And like you said earlier with Stafford's going to sling it. And
for
if the Cardinals were smart, they would bracket Cup on every freaking play.
Oh yeah, they'll try. I have no doubt about that.
Yeah.
And then the 1%er down here at 3,400. This is Sean Payton's new Marquise Colston. I'm calling it right now. Devon Vele out of Utah. Dude, he had 8 catches last week running for the Broncos. He is someone that Sean Payton trusts. He's cheap. He's going to be an option. To your point about Noah Brown at 3,400, It doesn't cost you a lot. If this guy catches eight balls again for 40, 50 yards, dude, you'll take 13, 14 points all day from that. So I think Pittsburgh is, well coached on defense. They're going to try to stop Cortland Sutton. Like Devon Bailey is going to be there for Bo Nix to have very easy completions. So, 8 targets in his first game for a 7th round receiver. Like that's pretty eye opening. So I think that's
true. I like that.
That's all I got.
Tight end.
All right.
This was an absolute
tight ends.
Terrible
fucking
position.
shit bomb last week. So
Dude, Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers was the second leading tight end at like 11 points.
Yeah.
Like what?
Yeah,
like tight ends didn't do anything. So I don't know. Looking forward for a bounce back.
Yep.
Well, who are you going to, Joe?
I'm going right back to Laporta. I'm going right up to the top. Again, the Lions like fantasy didn't do well for me last week, but again, I do think this Lions offense is explosive. I think Laporta has all the tools. There's nothing that scares me about this Bucs defense. I think there's a really high chance that Laporta just absolutely eats this week, and especially with the danger of Jameis Williams going over the top at true danger now, and people have to worry about it. Laporta is just going to feast underneath.
Okay. Jim, do you like anybody up top here? Expensive? Oh, keep him away from Ohio.
Just going to say that. If you're listening and not watching,
watch out there.
He was about to
cat up to the screen.
He was about to jump on the keyboard, so I kind of had to avoid that. And yes, please
watch out for that.
Please don't barbecue my cat.
Oh, they're not barbecuing, my friend. All right.
Back to tight ends.
They're having cat tartare, huh? Anyway, I don't know why. I mean, he did nothing this past week for the Niners, but
nobody did anything, so it's okay.
Correct. I am always going to, especially on tight ends, I'm more than happy to take the gamble on a cheaper tight end like Kittle. That is just every year it just happens, and it happens at weird random times where he has these fucking spike games. He'll have a shitty game and then he'll have 30 points. Okay. So at 5,500, I know for sure that he's going to have, 5 to 6 points, 7 points. I don't even know what he had last week. 4 catches for 48 points. I would have loved that. Okay. So if he gets me that again at 5,500, I'll just take that and move on, because there was guys, like Dalton Kincaid who got me like 2 points, right? So, I not a lot of people are going to own him this week. So Kittle is a guy that I'm definitely looking forward to get to if I'm paying. He might be kind of the top end of where I'm paying up for. I don't think I'm going over that. This week. Vinny, what about you?
Yeah, and just real quick, I'll find this and I'll try to retweet it on Twitter here. Kittle is like 6 catches away from some record, and I don't know what it is. Not to say that like they're gonna force feed him, like he's gonna get that obviously this year, but just a little something out there to kind of keep in mind.
Okay, I don't hate that.
Up top, I think if I'm gonna go high up, it is McBride. I've talked about it. Like, I just like all angles of this game. He's going to be low owned. He's a guy who didn't really do much, similar to Laporta last week. So as we talked about, bounce back week, if he comes in as lower ownership, I will definitely be taking shots on him up high.
All right.
Joe?
All right, starting to just go low.
Let's just go down.
It's Brock Bowers. I mean, he had 8 targets last week, and watching the Raiders game, they have this whole mentality, we're going to pound the rock, right? We're going to run the ball. And it's like, well, obviously that didn't work. And the Ravens are just going to absolutely stack the box and say, you're going to have to beat us with Minshew. And Minshew is going to give a lot of targets to Bowers. I see easy over 10 target type of game for Brock Bowers this week. And it could be a lot of second half points. But Bowers is going to absolutely eat, and he's still mispriced. He does belong up there in that 6K range, just from a pure volume and talent standpoint. So at 4,400, sign me up. He's not going to be there for long.
Yep.
All right. If we're going down, I really only have one guy, and I don't know why he's priced where he's at. again, I like this guy better than either of the other two random Rams wide receivers, and it's Colby Parkinson.
Yes, sir.
$3,100 is far too cheap. The opportunities that he's going to have for the entire game. He had 5 targets last week. If again at $3,100, what he scored last week at 8.7 is almost 3x. I'll take that all day. $3,100. Just like we said last week, Kittle was priced up. He would have probably been like 58, 5,900 on the main slate and had 8 points. So if I can get nearly the same production out of somebody for like $2,500 less, like what are we doing here? So yeah, I'm probably not going to be paying up too much for tight end this week because I'm going to be trying to jam in some other receivers and some running backs and stuff like that. So yeah, he's kind of a guy that I'm all about this week.
Yeah,
yep.
I'm with Parkinson. That was my number 3 guy too.
I'm shocked none of you guys have talked about Dolchich, but that's okay.
Yo,
the guy lower
sarcasm,
end
folks.
that I think you got to play a little bit of. If some idiot offensive lineman didn't hold, he would have had a touchdown last week. But that's Mike Gesicki. We talked about it a little bit, like going into the game. He would have had a touchdown and he probably would have been the top scoring tight end on the slate, to be honest, if that goes through. But if Higgins doesn't play, like there's not many options on that team that Burrow is trusting, right? So you can play, IOC this or whatever with 20% of the field, or you can play like a 3% on Gesicki.
I don't get why so many people are playing fucking IOC this.
I don't get it either. We just talked about like 5 guys in the same price range or below that are half the ownership.
I really don't. Okay, we need to find a cheap defense.
What is cheap in your mind?
I got you. You're not going to agree with me, but
the cheapest possible defense. What have you got?
Yeah, I got the Raiders 2,500. I think Lamar is going to turn the ball over. I'm not saying that they're not going to just eat, but at 2,500, I'm looking for this defense to give me like 7.5 points. And remember, until I explained it, you guys laughed at me about the Broncos last week, which got 2 safeties, which should be a hell of a lot more than 2 points on DFS.
I played the Broncos.
I know. I talked you into what I said. In the beginning, when I said it, you guys were very skeptical. And then I kind of talked my way through it, and you guys were like, okay, I'm into that. But I just, again, the Raiders defense, I still believe in them. I still think they're decent. And Lamar, after watching him last week, throw the football is atrocious. He's going to make mistakes. He's going to throw picks. Also, he's running the ball a lot. He still has fumbleitis. Like, I could see this being a 3-turnover game. I'm just looking for the Raiders to get me those 8 points, right? If they can get those 8 points at 2,500, I'm in with a very, very turnover-prone Lamar Jackson.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. What if
I personally just don't see it because you mentioned Lamar's scrambling around. Like the Raiders had 1 sack last week on a statue quarterback.
No, I know. But look, Harbaugh runs that offense as like a mistake-free offense. It's just the way he runs it. And it's like the Ravens are going to make mistakes, but there's also high upside to it. Like, I'm not saying like Lamar's not going to eat, right?
I'm going to give you a bold prediction right now. I won't play 1 ounce of anyone that is wearing a Panthers jersey this week. That team sucks. Don't play the Panthers defense.
Yeah, they're a AAA team.
I'll tell you, like, you could go down $200 more. I'd rather play the Saints at 2,400. We've talked about Dak is willing to throw picks and he'll take sacks. Like the Saints at least have a good front 7.
I'm playing the fucking Cardinals. The Cardinals play well at home. Matt Stafford does some weird shit sometimes. He throws weird random interceptions. They had decent pressure last week. They caused a fumble. They recovered it. I mean, they had fucking 9 points last week. Okay. And they gave up 28 points and they still had 9 points. I'm sorry. They gave up 34 points. They still had 9 points. Okay.
Fair.
So at 2,300, like I won money last week playing the Carolina defense who got -1. Okay. So at the very dead min, if you're telling me that a team who just gave up 34 points could still put up 9 fantasy points, I don't know how they're not the highest owned defense on the entire slate. And honestly, I'm not playing anybody else. I might have 100% Cardinals defense next week.
I like it. Bold. All right. Speaking of bold, let's move on to bold calls of
All right.
the week. What do we got? Who wants to go first here? Joe?
I'll go first. I think James Conner is the highest scoring running back with 30 plus points this week.
James
That's a good one.
Conner.
Vinny?
Right. I know this one's going to seem obvious, but I'll go extra bold on it. Whatever you think you have enough Cooper Kupp, it's not enough. I think you see over 40 points from Kupp this week. I think Cooper Kupp smashes the slate at 7,800. Like, he's going to be 30% owned, and you're still getting positive leverage on him right now. Like, that's insane.
Okay.
So I think Cooper Kupp
Yeah,
40
touche.
plus.
I'm gonna stick with my Kittle prediction, and I am gonna say that George Kittle goes for 25 plus this week.
Ew.
And based on the tight end performances last week, that is indeed a very bold call. Oh my!
I like it. I like it.
Guy got the new fucking soundboard. All right, so top stacks. I'm gonna take your Cooper Kupp thing, Vinny. It's the Rams for me. And I've been playing around with it today. You can get Stafford, Kyron Williams, and Kupp into a lineup, no problem. And putting those three together in a lineup, you now have like 75% of the Rams' total offense. So like, I don't know that a lot of people are going to do that. I like that Arizona has some nice run back options, like Joey mentioned with Connor. I don't hate Dortch as a run back. If you want to do a full game stack, you could get two of those guys in there. I think that is going to probably be my favorite stack of the week is the Rams. Vinny, who you going with?
I dig it. I think, well, that probably would have been mine, but yeah, why not? Let's roll the dice. Let's run it back with Cincy. Let's do it.
Oh,
Burrow,
there you go.
Chase, skinny stack it. Again, plenty of options to bring it back with Pacheco. You could bring it back with Rice. I'm not playing Kelsey, but if you wanted to do that, you could as well. But I think this is the way to go. I think Bengals are trailing early, and I think Joey B is slinging it around. I think he gets his groove back this week. So,
All right,
Joe,
I like it.
I think it's obvious. It's the Cardinals. It's literally the opposite side of Jim. I love the Cardinals stack on that side. You can run it back with Kupp by himself, and it just looks too good. I like the afternoon slate. I think it's going to be very high scoring. The ball's going to get spread around, so stack it up.
Bingo, bango, bongo.
There we go.
Especially like Kyler, Connor, McBride. Like that's probably my favorite like combo that might be out of a high owned slate or a high owned game. Probably the lowest owned three together.
Don't totally ignore Marvin Harrison this week.
No, for sure.
Don't ignore him. Get him in something.
I mean, I'm gonna play him with the Kyler stack. Like I like like
oh yeah.
My Arizona stack that I'm going to play is going to be Kyler, McBride, and Harrison, and then it's an easy run back for me with Kyron, and then I can throw Kupp in there if I want to too, and go about it that way.
Yeah. All right. Cool. That's it.
All right, guys.
Good luck.
All right, guys. Good luck in week 2. Make sure you're tuning into the showdown shows by Jimmy over here, the college shows that Vinny does that are wildly popular on YouTube. And don't forget to tune into our circus show that will be dropping soon after this show drops.
Later.